Friday for Future's Windhoek, a group of environmental activists on Friday held a peaceful demonstration against the planned oil drilling in the Okavango Basin. The protests coincide with US President Joe Biden's Earth Day Summit, where the US President invited 40 world leaders to a virtual meeting which endeavors to galvanize effort by the world's major economies to tackle the world climate crisis. The protesters delivered an open letter to the acting Deputy Chief of Mission at the US Embassy in Namibia, Walter Powers, urging the Namibian-based diplomat to take action in accordance with the United States of America 115 Delta Act that seeks to promote inclusive economic growth through biodiversity programs that facilitate transboundary cooperation, improves natural resource management, and builds local capacity to protect and preserve threatened wildlife species in the greater Okavango River Basin of Southern Africa. Addressing the US diplomat on behalf of protesters, Helvi Shikwambi expressed disappointment at Namibia's updated climate ambitions that seek to reduce greenhouse emissions by 92%, all the while giving the green light to an oil company, ReconAfrica, to operate in a fragile ecosystem, perpetuating the increase of greenhouses.
And here today, the following Earth Day, firstly to urge you to take action in accordance with the Delta Act. The Delta Act directs the Department of State and the US Agency for International Development to work with Angola, Botswana, Namibia, and neighboring countries to develop a strategy to, among others, promote responsible natural resource and wildlife management practices in the greater Okavango River Basin. Second, to protect migration routes of elephants and other threatened wildlife species. However, since news broke, we have not seen any intervention from representatives in regards to this law and ReconAfrica's regard thereof. Secondly, we urge climate policies of first world nations, such as the US, to consider all nations for an equal chance at climate action and mitigation. The world awaits news from President Biden's global summit. And as usual, bold ambitions will come from this summit. Empty promises which are eventually limited to minimal effort-based action. A local example of this empty promises is Namibia's updated climate ambitions to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 92% by 2030. All the while giving the green to a gas and oil company to operate in gem of an ecosystem, perpetuating the increase of greenhouse gases. We must stop the hypocrisy immediately, the game of pretense, and regain some dignity with these actionless ambitions. This begins by seizing all exploration and production of oil. Globally, climate policies of first world countries such as G7 nations should aim to phase out fossil fuels globally, not simply in their backyard. Otherwise, global South nations categorized as low emission but high vulnerability will continue to suffer from the carbon outsourcing of first world nations.
Receiving the petition on behalf of the US government, Deputy Chief of Mission at the US Embassy, Walter Powers, said the US has an ambition that by 2030, the country will reduce their CO2 emissions by half, and that by 2050, the globe will be made carbon neutral. Powers also announced the US government, along with the Namibian and Botswanian governments, has plans of producing one, if not the largest solar park in the world, called Mega Solar.
I watched a good amount of the Global Leaders Summit yesterday, and I felt encouraged. I was so encouraged to see so many global leaders getting together, even with all the challenges of COVID, to get in front of the public and to say, we're going to try to work together to do something to stop climate change. President Biden said this yesterday, and it really stuck out in my mind. He said, this is the decade. We've been talking about doing this for a long time, but it's getting worse. This is the decade. Where we will go after this is going to be determined by the actions that we take in this decade. And I tell you that the United States, the government of Namibia, and the government of Botswana, along with some other partners like the World Bank, have taken recently an important step forward on potentially producing one of the largest solar parks in the world. The program is called Mega Solar. Mega Solar. And a couple of points on and the Biden administration just yesterday, recognized and announced this as one of the deliverables, the step forward that we have taken all as partners on the potential development of this giant solar farm. It has the potential to create 2 to 5 gigawatts of solar energy. It would be one of the largest solar parks in the world, if not the largest.
The demonstration proceeded to the German embassy, where environmental activist Georgina Namises presented an open letter to His Excellency Herbert Beck, the German ambassador to Namibia. She reminded the German government's most senior representative in Namibia of the federal government's commitment to nature preservation in Namibia, Angola, and Botswana. According to her, Germany has a special role to play because the KfW, on behalf of the German government, has been supporting Kavango Zambezi Transfer Conservation Area with funding amounting to millions of German taxpayers' money. She said the World Heritage Protection status of the Okavango Delta makes it imperative for the German ambassador to stand up for nature and people.
Namibia continues to lobby for money from the Green Climate Fund and yet enables activity to jeopardize our precious ecosystems. We wonder why we're in pursuit of oil while prices are dropping around the world. For decades, Germany has supported the preservation of nature reserve in Namibia, Angola, and Botswana with amounts in the millions. Germany has a special role to play in this case. The Okavango Delta has also received World Heritage Protection status in the support of federal government and the DUH. The German Environmental Protection Association has been committed to the region for more than 10 years, and we refuse to give up. We refuse to sit still as we make decisions today of whose mess we'll have to clean up later. We will not wait to act later. Unlike the world leaders, we act now because our future depends on it.
The German ambassador thanked the Fridays for Future Windhoek for delivering the petition and said he will study it and pass it on to the German government.
Well, I can just say thank you very much for the letter and also for the engagement of the Namibian youth in terms of saving our planets. I think you said a lot of true things. I think there is also, of course, the quest for livelihoods in Namibia, and I think it is a difficult issue also to be resolved, and we are observing it. You said that we are supporting CASA and nature projects in Namibia, which is true, and I think it is about the balance also between individual livelihoods and nature, and this can only be resolved in a more harmonic relationship between humans and nature, and that's what we are, I think, all striving for. So thank you very much for presenting me with that open letter, and I will study it and pass it on to Berlin. Thank you very much, and thank you for Fridays for Future, because I think it is important that such a movement exists also in Namibia. So thank you very much.
On the sidelines of the protest, Africa Diaspora News Channel interviewed Verishka Dumeni and Helvi Shukwambi to gain more insight of what the protest was about.
So we are Fridays for Future Windhoek, and today we held a demonstration in celebration of Earth Day, even though it was yesterday. And we handed over a petition as well as read a speech to the US ambassador to Namibia. And in that speech, we spoke about how G7 nations such as Canada, US, and the UK, ought to take the responsibility at acknowledging all the other nations whenever they come up with their climate policies, because it's them that are the stewards of climate action all over the world. We follow their trends. Therefore, when they enact climate ambitions and climate actions, the rest of the world follows. We also went to the U.S. Embassy.
German Embassy.
First, the U.S. Embassy, because the company ReconAfrica is registered in the US, UK, and in Canada, with a home base in Canada. And whilst the countries such as US, Canada, and the UK are putting forth their climate ambitions, they are allowing companies to outsource their carbon to global south nations, which are already so vulnerable to the effects of the climate crisis. So we were urging them that climate action should not only happen in their backyard, but should be global. by considering that their ambitions, their climate policies, their regulations, the regulations they put in place affect all of us, and they should be stewards of climate action because they are mostly responsible for the carbon emissions. We also came to the German embassy because in the Kaza region, in the Kaza conservancies of the Kavango region, many German taxpayers have invested millions of their dollars in preserving the nature and wildlife there, in nature conservation and sustainability projects. And we asked them to intervene because they cannot stand by and let their efforts and their money go to waste while the Namibian government enables the company ReconAfrica to potentially destroy the Okavango region. And also that the effects of the oil drilling project in the Kavango will not stay in the Kavango, it will not stay in Namibia, it will affect the entire globe because we share one atmosphere, we share one carbon budget. And this project has the potential to deplete 1/6 of the world's carbon budget. So we went to these two embassies to call on to urge them to act from their part, with their responsibilities, with their acts that they have in place, international acts, to seize the activities of the company ReconAfrica in the Kavango Basin, for not only Namibia, for not only Kavango, but for the entire world.
We also plead with the Namibian government to hear the voices of the youth, to hear the voices of the Kavango people, and to take care of our natural resources in a sustainable manner. We urge them to make policies that actually pay in mind with our future, because our future lies in our natural resources. We also urge that in the global leaders as well as the policy makers make plans and policies not only for the G7 countries, but also take consideration, like she said, for countries like Namibia who actually emit little to the global emissions.
Hey brothers, I want to tell you about a website called blackmenszone.com. Now, Black Men's Zone is a site that specifically targets black men. It's a place where black men talk about issues that solely affect them. Now, at Black Men's Zone, the topics will range from news to society, sports, technology, business, food and recipes. Some brothers got to cook too. Gaming, and some of you brothers like doing some of that. Health and fitness, got to get your workout on. Music, movies, and many other topics. Now, there's not many forums around these days for black men, and because black men have to create them. Now, this particular website is more of a forum based, something simple, not social media. You can write what you need to write, say what you need to say, get off pretty quick. But if you're interested, brothers, to at least go there, and I want you to check it out, engage in the topics, go to blackmenszone.com, sign up for an account, and get engaged in the conversation.
Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and download the African Diaspora News Channel app, now available on Google Play and the Apple App Store.